great episode of Days of Our Lives. Tonight we're going to discuss the decline in the U.S., starting with a video we got from the Dual Archives from a group called Homes Not Bound. And after that we're going to discuss a couple of shortcuts, and I think that will pretty much cover the evening. So if that video is that, we'd like to start with that and then go off into the discussion.
I was born, raised in East Boston, and I'll probably die here. My kids have been raised here, and it's not all of their dreams to remain living in East Boston, but it is in their dreams to have the same kind of dream I had. That was the right to buy a home and be happy in it. And I don't think my kids are going to see that dream in the near future.
You get real depressed for a long time. You kind of wonder, at that point whether it's worth even being around. You kind of think sometimes your family's better off without you. You think like you got insurance, and so you go out and run into a bridge or something like this.
Has happened because my husband has left me, and the only income I have is from welfare, which is only $750 a month, which will not pay $700 a month rent, plus whatever.
I try to make it easy for him by buying him things and buying him toys and taking him to the movies. I took him on the Intrepid, the aircraft could carry. I try to make it like we still have our own place, like we're not going through this, but it's hard. It really is. And people don't understand just how hard it is. Sometimes I look up at buildings and I see the apartments occupied, and I wish that was me inside. Just recently, our organization
More and more tenants are being pushed out because of high rents, condominium conversions, demolition of public housing, and real estate speculation. For many Americans, the dream of home ownership has ended. What's wrong? How is it that in a country so wealthy, such vast resources, that thousands of people are forced to leave their homes in this poverty?
There clearly is a huge housing crisis in this country. The dimensions are felt at a lot of levels, and the homeless population is really the tip of the iceberg of the housing crisis. Below them and not as visible, but also suffering a lot, are people who are paying 40, 50, 60% of their income for rent. You have people who are literally one paycheck, one rent increase, away from becoming homeless themselves.
We took a survey out on everybody, and the overwhelming majority of our membership are paying somewhere between 60 and 70% of their income towards housing.
In the final analysis, while we're quite proud of what we've been able to do in Boston, it can't take the place of a federal government that is turning its back on the cities of America. You just can't see those kinds of enormous cuts in critical services for poor families in America and try to expect to have local cities make that up in one fell swoop. It just will not be done.
In this country, it's not a question of whether we have the money to fund housing or not. It's a question of priority. It's a question of whether the federal government is prepared to make strong, hard decisions to put money back into housing.
Since 1980, federal funds for housing have been cut 80%, from nearly $35 billion to $7 billion a year. In addition, the federal government has suspended all construction of affordable housing, cut back Section 8 subsidies for low-income renters, eliminated most rural housing agencies, cut housing in senior living.
A lot of people say that if there's no money in the budget, that if you don't have any money to put into housing and any other program, well, that's simply just not true. It's a question of priority. That the federal government has decided that their priorities are to put a lot of money in wasteful military spending, in foreign intervention, and in building weapon systems that do not work.
The money does exist in the federal government for us to address the housing needs. It's an absolute crime that the federal government continues to spend millions, billions, trillions on the military budget and not to spend those money on housing.
Since 1980, the military budget has more than doubled, from $160 billion to over $300 billion. Billions of dollars, instead of being used to help people, have gone to the Pentagon, intervening in the affairs of other countries, militarizing our space, building weapons that don't work, funding waste, fraud.
Well, the funds being cut, taken from the neighborhoods and community and put into the military budget, I mean, you look at Central America, every day, they're giving Central America $1 million to military. And that's our neighborhood and our community and our education money, that if they stop giving that and stop making people disappear and murdering people and just keeping this war going, then we would have money for our neighborhoods and our community. Imagine what Rockford, Rochester, Mattapan, and some of the neighborhoods could do with $1 million a day.
We've got to remember it's our money. The money they're spending is our money. And I just as soon help someone else out than help some senator or congressman or president who doesn't look like they're starving and they look like they're closing nice. White House looks like it's in good condition. He could put up a few people there.
And the National Union of the Homeless joined forces to build a shelter house on the front lawn of the Pentagon. That was the beginning of the National Build Homes, Not Bombs campaign.
Low-income housing advocates gathered at the back of the Pentagon today to protest the lack of affordable housing. They call on government officials to cut back on military spending and give more money for housing. Channel 5's David Burnett was there.
To dramatize their concern about a lack of affordable housing, housing advocates built a symbolic house on the grounds of the Pentagon.
The threat to America's security is not from the outside, but from the inside, those of us who are homeless before in this country.
This rally is the first of more than 30 that will be held around the country starting Saturday, emphasizing the need for more low-income housing. They say affordable housing is becoming more scarce all the time, creating more and more homeless people. Because of that, they say it is more critical than ever to build homes, not bombs. David Burnett, Channel 5 News, at the Pentagon.
The American people, as a whole, we are a people of tremendous capacity. And we want people in need and in trouble taken care of. And if their families can't do it, if their cities can't do it, if their states can't do it, then we expect the federal government to do it.
We came together as an organization to say that we want to change the priorities of America. That there's a natural link between those of us who are homeless in this country and the military build-out. There's bombs that are being built with money taken from social programs used to make people homeless and to kill people in foreign lands who ain't done a damn thing to us. We're saying that there has to be a change in this country.
The Build Homes, Not Bombs campaign seeks to connect the campaign for affordable housing with efforts by these organizations to challenge the U.S. foreign policy. It is an opportunity to forge a common agenda of reordering federal priorities from housing missiles to housing.
We reach out to people and we ask them to get involved. We go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, and ask people to take action in their community. For example, in Duluth, Minnesota, the Affordable Housing Committee realized that a large abandoned hotel was about to be demolished, and that instead, that building could be used for affordable housing units. So they took action. They got the community involved. They got people behind them, and together they marched to the steps of the federal building and said to their congressperson, we need your help in preserving this building for affordable housing units right here in Duluth. People across the country are reaching out in their communities, driving home the message that there is a connection between high military spending and the lack of affordable housing. And we're going to keep involving more and more people in this campaign until we change the way our government spends our money.
Unless and until there's a conscious decision to cut military spending, we're going to continually have to cut housing and other domestic programs in this country. And that's why it is critical that all of us get involved in a fight to cut the military budget and fund permanently affordable housing.
I'm inspired of what I've seen happen. I believe in people. I believe in what the great information and the proper support. So they will make the right decision. And they will move everyone out of the federal government. I see that happening.
We are not going to be satisfied no longer with the kind of walls that you've erected to divide us. The walls that divide men from women, blacks against whites, Native Americans, yellow and brown men. If we're going to tear down those damn walls, if we're going to build a kind of society that's going to be a just society for each and every one of us, so it will not come from a homes and jobs and the quality of life in this country when we're organized to take it. No one is going to give us nothing. It is up to us, brothers and sisters, to go out and organize, to build, to take our message to the American people, and to build this barn up, to say, build homes, not barns.
Alright, I think that the video perfectly shows the lack of confidence people have in the country now, the fact that the government's in decline, that it's spending more on wars abroad than it is domestically. 75% of the population now doesn't expect life to improve for the next generation of Americans. And this isn't too surprising, seeing how real wages have been dropping for 20 years. Yeah, in fact, this is something that I had mentioned on last week's program, is that real wages since 1973 have crashed about 19%. Now that's an incredible amount. We have some statistics here that we want to share with you tonight just to illustrate our point a little better. According to that figure, in 1973, and this is before two-income families were the norm, when usually this is just sort of a husband, traditional family value model, where in the majority, median household income was around $30,944 a year. Now in 1991, there's been a significant change in that, and this is now with the average monthly age of two-income family. The income now adjusted for inflation was $30,126. Now that's a drop from almost 20 years ago. How can people expect their children to have any kind of increase in lifestyle quality? Well, not only are their wages dropping, they're working more for less. The average work year right now for people with jobs is $1,890 a year, and that's the second highest among all industrial nations, and it's 15% higher than it was in the 1950s. Yeah, and a lot of people could just attribute that to maybe that's the culpability of the corporations. However, the United States government has been a party to this too, because the tax system is also biased against the poor. In 1968, the country had a progressive tax, and it had a bottom rate of 14% and a top rate 75%. In 1992, it has three rates, 15, 28, and 31, which means that if you're middle class or lower middle class or billionaire, you can be taxed at about essentially the same rate. Now that's completely biased against the lower income person. It's just absolutely insane. And the richest 1% will owe about $43 billion less in federal taxes in 1993 than they would have paid at the 1977 rate, which just shows the general pattern. Of course, when people talk about, that we have a recession, that, but either way, we still have the world's richest economy. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, but now more children are dying before their first birthday in 23 other nations. Yet we still have the richest economy. The paradox is incredible. We're one of only two industrialized countries without national health insurance. And there are studies that show that the number of hungry people in the country ranges now between 21 million and 43 million. Yeah, it's insane. As you said, first in military spending among 19 industrialized countries, however, we're last in spending on things like Social Security, welfare, and so on. And things aren't getting any better for the lower income people in this country either, because you can see that during the 80s sort of free-for-all Reaganomics trickle-down hoax, corrupt banks and S&Ls and things were bailed out. However, people who are unemployed, who are homeowners, small farmers, they're not bailed out when the bank comes and forecloses on them, takes away their property and their livelihood. All of this has hurt the poor. Now 1 out of every 7 people are poor, and between 1979 and 1990, the proportion of year-round workers paid low wages increased by half. And of course, this has always hurt people of color most. Right now, 1 out of 2 black children are poor, and black infant mortality is twice that of white. Black life expectancy is less than 5 years. And blacks are turned down for mortgages at twice the rate of whites with similar income. And as most people have heard, also, this country, the United States, imprisons more black men than any other country. It even imprisons more black men than South Africa, where there is a definite set-up system of apartheid. And, without the name in this country, we can still see that system is definitely there, and it's definitely sort of doing its magic, so to speak.
In fact, a university recently, according to Holly Sklar in Z Magazine, recently helped a local police dragnet by providing a list of all the black male students. And of course, the proportion of black prisoners on death row is much higher than that of white prisoners, and now we have a Supreme Court that feels that it's better to have 10 guilty prisoners executed quickly than one innocent prisoner allowed to go free. And the prison population as a result has more than doubled since 1980, and at the same time we've seen heavy cutbacks in education, job programs, housing, and wages. That's right, and nonetheless, with all these national crises on the rise, we still have a military budget included with all of the other things that the corporate media won't tell you about, around $300 billion a year on the military. Now that has nothing to do with national defense. The real national defense in this day and age should be the defense of the people of the United States, the defense of the low income, the defense of women, minorities, people who really need help, not the defense against some kind of imagined enemy abroad. So now, of course, the government always tries to find out ways to distract us, bring up foreign conflicts or whatever. One of the most interesting facts that they try to hide away is that when they talk about recession, but while people's wages have been declining, corporate profits have been increasing. And that's something we definitely should know because it might raise our anger or something. So there are lots of foreign issues which are there to distract us, and definitely going to tell us a little about those on this week's Shortcuts. Yeah, in fact, a couple of our shortcuts really have to do with that. They're both from the Grand Rapids Press within the last few days, and they're both related, so we'll show them to you both together. First one is about North Korea. The first one is now about CIA reportedly sees Iranian nuclear weapons by the end of this decade. And this is an article just talking about how Iran is going to have nuclear weapons capability, which was the same battle cry before the U.S. invaded Iraq, so you can watch out for another one of those adventures in the Middle East. And it just goes through the continual references to the CIA, which is the largest terrorist organization in the world. And then in the end it says that the career intelligence officer, referring to Robert Gates, said on Tuesday that Tehran could pose a threat to the United States and its allies in the Persian Gulf within 3 to 5 years. Okay, now related to that is the next shortcut, which is also from the Grand Rapids Press. North Korea reportedly hiding nuke construction. Now, this says that according to highly reliable Western and South Korean sources, the Associated Press was told that new U.S. satellite photographs show recent construction near nuclear facilities in North Korea. Now, whether these things are true or not, basically the corporate media is ignoring the same main point they ignored during the Iraq invasion. The only thing that could get the people of the United States to rally behind an invasion of Iraq was this sort of chicken little call saying the sky was falling and that Iraq was developing nuclear weapons and was going to be a threat to the United States. So now we see that again. Now this should scare people. North Korea and Iran are two prime targets for the United States. However, the United States is not crying out against nuclear proliferation in its allied countries, being Israel, South Africa, Pakistan, and India. In fact, the U.S. has lent enormous amounts of technology, has been quite aware of nuclear tests on the part of India, South Africa, Pakistan, and Israel. And these are all countries that have the capacity to deliver nuclear weapons as well, which is really the important capacity. They all have nuclear weapons in existence already. However, you don't see threats to invade them. Only threats to invade North Korea, which is communist, and Iran, which is an enemy of the